The Native Women's Shelter was established in 1987. Our mission is to support Indigenous women and children, and also honoring their culture, empowerment, and advocacy. The women that come here come from all over. So they're either living in Montreal or they're from their communities and they don't have the tools in the communities, so they come to Montreal hoping to have a better life and they kind of fall through the cracks. And we are here to support them. When I became the director in 2004, I wanted to create new programming to support the women and children because there's a lack of services that are culturally appropriate for Indigenous women, and we need to create them here. So when the elders went to the TRCs and gave the testimony that they themselves as children had to build or had to dig the graves for their friends, didn't really get absorbed, right? When you see the actual site in Saskatchewan where you have like 700 little sort of, markers of all the children that are in there, that really touches you because you visually see it. Same thing with Joyce Echaquan. When you see and hear how the nurse is speaking to her and how much pain Joyce is in and the injustice that she's going through, that speaks volumes. So what's difficult is, how do we make change, right? And I know the federal government had said, well, we can offer, some money for counseling, but we don't want counseling. We already get that through our Indian status. So we already get that counseling. It's part of our treaty. What we need is accountability. We need to pull out all the old Indian agents and all the priests, nuns, teachers that are still alive and have them testify, because I think that when you build that one grave, there's still a discussion about so-and-so died. Do we tell the parents? What do we do? Who's gonna dig the grave? And when you do it 751 times, that is like there's a lot of people that were in charge that knew about it and didn't offer that information. And had we not found them, it would have just been as if it never happened. It's under the rug. So I think that next generation can fight for that. If you can have a Nuremberg trial, you can do something like that similar in Canada. We have to demand that. Canada, the history of Canada, it's not reflected in the history books. I've been asked to testify. I even actually did a small statement for the TRCs many years ago in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. I testified at the Viens Commission and at the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Inquiry. All the testimony goes into different sort of books. And all those books are handed out to society. And all society kind of looks at the books on the shelf and is like, thank you. But they don't open it. And they don't apply it. And then to know that your words go on paper and no one actually looks at it, what is the point? The point is to create change. If you're given recommendations with the police, with the hospitals, with youth protection, and no one is forced to do anything about it, then everything stays the same. It's very nice that, we were given a special day on September 30th as the National Reconciliation Day, the National Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th. However, when you have a prime minister that decides to go on vacation and forget that he was supposed to speak to survivors, that speaks volumes. And if we have a government in Quebec that doesn't feel like this should be a holiday because they have enough holidays, that is also an insult. If we have a premier that doesn't believe in systemic racism, that's difficult. But if everybody else sees it, well, let's just go with those that see it. He's allowed to, have his views, but we know that it's here and we need to be that solution. We need to do that awareness. You gotta do something, right? You gotta find those that wanna be part of the solution, that wanna acknowledge, because it is not easy being Indigenous. We really have an enormous amount of obstacles against us, and what I do in my work is try to clear the path a little bit so it's less hard for that next generation. for me, what I've seen in the Black community, they are like miles ahead of us. For the Indigenous community, I mean, Dorothy Williams is someone that I had met at Batshaw. She was advocating on behalf of Black children. She was creating all kinds of programming, and I was like, I want to be you. And you know, she was someone who I thought as a leader and that I wanted to copy her, and that's kind of like the work that I'm doing. I mean, I'm a little bit behind her, but you know, I'm trying to catch up. I think we need to look at others that have cleared the path and watch how they did it and imitate it. The fact that the history books have very little Indigenous content. I mean, I love asking students, can you name the 11 nations of Quebec? They can't. Why is that? You know, why is Quebec that province where being Indigenous is invisible? Because I know that if you go to BC and you get off the airplane and you walk through the airport, you're like, Indigenous art is everywhere. You go to Trudeau Airport, nothing. It's almost an ignorance, right? If you don't have the education in the books, then you're ignorant, and then you just continue moving forward. I mean, years ago, I worked with the police to do a training for Indigenous people, and when we did the blanket exercise, and we did it first with small groups of police, they couldn't believe the stuff that we went through. They're like, the government did this to you? I'm like, yeah, right? But if we don't offer that information, then everyone is just ignorant and they just keep getting their education through cowboy and Indian movies. Winston Churchill had said, history is written by the victors. And this is why you see the history books written the way they are, right? But we still have time to change that narrative. And this is why if we do more, if society asks the government for more, then things will change. We, as a society, if we are outraged by something, there are ways to demonstrate that in a healthy way and to show the government that we are expecting change. We are expecting that people, you know, change the history books and actually include the 11 nations and, you know, like more content on that. There's very rarely anything about residential school, even the 60 Scoop, the Indian Act, the you know, the pass system. A lot of people don't even know about that. There's a lot that people need to know. There's many things that they can do. When I take my kids downtown and like say I take them, you know, to buy clothing or to go to a movie or whatever, whenever I take them out for lunch, we always get extra food. As soon as we finish, whatever is extra, we pack it up and my kids go into the metro. When my kids go in the metro, what they do is they look first for Indigenous people. But what's funny about my kids is they're like, he looks like he has a job, not him. This one looks like he needs the food. So, and they my kids give the food to those that need it. And the look on the people's face when they receive it from a child is like, oh, thank you, right? So that person is recognized as being hungry and needing food. My child is being recognized as offering something and making a change. And the act of kindness, like you don't know what the effect is going to be in the long term, right? Because most homeless people, it's sort of like, don't give them eye contact, keep walking fast, don't look at them, hold on to your wallet and all that. When actually those that are on the streets have had a horrific life. No one ever says, oh, I think when I grow up I want to be homeless. Like nobody ever says that. It's an unbelievably difficult place to be, and every day that they survive is amazing. Because I know if I was on the streets, it would probably be 2 weeks and I'd be gone. Like I couldn't do it. I don't know how they do it. It's actually why we created Résilience Montréal. We called it Résilience Montréal because we are acknowledging that they are resilient, that they have been on the streets, and we welcome you exactly as you are. We're not going to be saying you can't come in because you smell or you're under the influence or you're violent or whatever. Like you can come in and we will help you with getting the bare minimums and then a lot more as well. Whatever it is that you want, we're going to help you with that. by always going out and getting advice from others that have strengths in different fields that I don't have, of always consulting with people, of always, you know, creating projects with others and then using that project to be like, okay, I'm going to submit this. I mean, I always ask other people for help for the things that I do, and that is the key, because I certainly don't have all the information, but I bring in a lot of geniuses to help me to create things, and then that is what is presented, you know, and it takes a lot of time. You know, one of my role models is Mary 2 Acts Early, and she was the one who changed the law, Bill C-31. And it took her 20 years. So that is what I tell the youth now. It's like, if you want to change something, put in the time. And when the door slams in your face, find another door and be persistent. And that persistence will pay off. And get a mentor, because having a mentor is someone who can give you different input on how to solve that problem, and just keep at it. So that's what I've done with my career. I just keep at it. So now it's kind of like when I show up at the door, they're like, oh God, it's her. Just let her do it because she'll be back, right? Just let her have it. The work that I do because I love what I do. I don't do it for awards, right? I do it because it's necessary, because other people haven't like stood up to do it, and I have the capabilities to do it. So I'm glad that they chose me for this award, but there's a lot of other people that also deserve this award as well. So there's a lot of people doing exactly what I'm doing in different organizations that also should be recognized. So that's what it means.